Welcome back to the Youngins Take, a podcast where students talk about everything, including pop culture, politics, science, and business.
Thank you all for tuning into our past episodes and following us on this journey. Shout out to all of our supporters. If you have any suggestions for topics or would even like to be a guest speaker, hit us up on Instagram at YounginsTake or email us at younginspodcast@gmail.com. Today, we have a very special guest, the 9th president of the University of Virginia, Jim Ryan. A respected and accomplished educator and legal scholar, Ryan earned his law degree from UVA and previously served on the School of Law faculty for 15 years. From 2013 to 2018, he acted as the Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Education and the Charles William Eliot Professor of Education. Now let's get into the podcast.
So hello, President Ryan. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks. And thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. So I guess we'll get right into it then. As you have been a leader in the education industry for a while now, based on your previous experiences, what are good qualities that you look for in instructors and in students?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's some overlap. I mean, I would say for teachers, I think three qualities stand out: knowledge, passion, and compassion. Obviously, to be a good teacher, you need to know your subject. But more than that, I think to be an effective teacher, you need to be passionate about your subject and convey that passion to your students, but also passionate about teaching.
Right,
of course.
And actually be invested in becoming a good teacher and understanding that teaching, like anything else, is a skill. I think there's a misconception that some people are born good teachers and others are not. I think some people start out with advantages and others don't, but it's a craft like anything else, and you can get better at it. And then the compassion piece of it, I think, is just as important. There's a saying that people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I think that,
wow, yeah, that is profound.
I think it's true for students, right? So I think if students feel like, okay, this professor cares about me as a person, they're going to feel more engaged and connected to the class. So for students, two of the three are exactly the same: passion and compassion. And I think the third is, instead of knowledge, curiosity, a desire to learn more. But in terms of passion, I think the very best students, some of them come with a passion, but some develop a passion along the way. I think in some respects, it's an openness to feeling like the point of education is to decide what you truly care about, what you're passionate about, what your purpose is. Not just checking a box, not just going up the next ladder. And I think those are the most interesting and ultimately successful students. And the compassion piece of it is coming in feeling like this shouldn't just be about you. It should not just be about your personal self-advancement. It should be about how are you going to be as a member of a community, and are you coming in thinking that part of the reason for me getting this education is so that I can use it to help others. And the last thing I would say is, I think students who have faced some adversity in their lives are among the stronger students. And not everyone has faced the same amount of adversity, but those who have struggled with something, and it could be something that might seem small to you and me on the grand scale, who have failed and have proven to be resilient, those are remarkable students. Even if that hasn't happened, students who are open to taking risks, knowing that there might be failure, I think that's, it's an incredibly important experience to have. And if students bring it with them, they're stronger. If they're willing to have that experience while they're in college, that's fine as well.
Yeah, because a lot of instructors in mine and Abhinav schools both said that each failure is a puzzle piece to future success. So that risk-taking part that you said is definitely something that, all students should strive for.
I totally agree.
Just for an education,
I've learned 10 times more from every failure I've experienced than I have from any success.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of like a building block.
Yeah. Yeah.
You made a great point about communities. So how can educational institutions foster more constructive discourse between students? So this can include anything from political issues to like scientific research.
Yeah. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges facing universities today, honestly. And I think that the key is to provide opportunities for students who have different perspectives to interact with one another under conditions that are conducive to productive conversations. And that can happen outside of classrooms or inside of classrooms. Outside of classrooms, I think it's about supporting and elevating student organizations that are all about bringing people from different perspectives into conversation with one another. And at UVA, there are a bunch of organizations, from traditional debating organizations to organizations that try to pair people who have different political perspectives to have not necessarily a debate, but just a conversation. And I think that universities ought to be supporting those efforts, because some of the most important and effective efforts are going to be driven by students themselves rather than driven by the administration or top down.
That makes sense. Yeah.
At the same time, I think it's useful to provide even more opportunities and visible ones. So one of the things that we just started is this series called Democracy Dialogues. Where we're bringing in high-profile people with different perspectives to talk about the most important issues of the day facing our democracy and democracies around the world. Part of the point of that is to shed light on the issues themselves. Part of the point of it is to model what a productive conversation among people who disagree can look like.
Right.
And sadly, there are not a lot of models of that in the world today. Inside the classroom, I think it's just as important for faculty and those who are leading a conversation to provide opportunities for different viewpoints to get on the table. That doesn't necessarily just mean asking, well, what do you think and what do you think? It means faculty sometimes have to bring up an unpopular point because they know a student is going to be nervous about bringing up an unpopular point. Faculty have to think about, well, maybe what we should do is assign roles, and you have to argue position A and you have to argue position B. You don't have to endorse position A or position B because you might not be comfortable about it, but at least you get the differing points of view out into conversation, and then you can have a productive conversation where you're going to avoid the, I can't believe that you think that.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like creating a safe environment almost.
Yeah, the conditions matter an awful lot. I think creating the conditions to have productive conversations is a really important aspect of this. And some of that is about creating conditions where there's a sense of trust.
But yeah, on that note, thank you so much, President Ryan, for just sharing your insight. I know we could ask a lot of questions, but the questions we asked, you provided your in-depth knowledge into them, and we appreciate that a lot. And I feel like the students at UVA will also appreciate that a lot as well.
It's really interesting to see something from the point of view of a administrator. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sure. Especially the president of an institution too.
Sure.
Yeah. So
right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. My pleasure.
Yeah.